by saying go blue.
Well, not a lot of people saying that right now, Chris.
No, actually, from what I can see, a lot of people they're saying the same thing, but it's not go blue, unfortunately.
I just realized I didn't even have the iPad soundboard like enabled. That just
but I could still hear it.
It's because it's loud and it just went through my microphone. That's just the kind of day it is. It's the kind of day it is on a sleazy Thursday afternoon.
Oh, real sleazy Thursday afternoon. That was about as hard of a half of basketball to watch as I can remember in a very, very long time.
You want to hear what's crazy? All right, so obviously Michigan loses 62-50. Season done. I mean, Michigan may or may
as
not
it should be.
Yeah, may or may not go into the NIT. I don't care. I mean, the NIT is a kick in the dick as far as I'm concerned. Like, I don't even want to be in that tournament. And I'm interested to see if Michigan does accept an invite to that and if the players play, because they didn't look like they gave a shit today. And speaking in tongue.
Speaking in tongues, is that what you were about?
I was going to say it's a little tongue in cheek what I'm about to say, because I know it's not like all that important, but it's something I couldn't help, but it rubbed me the wrong way a little bit when we had Juwan Howard on a Zoom call earlier this week.
Yeah.
Somebody asked him, Juwan, what's your message to the team? When it looks like you clearly need a win or two in the Big Ten tournament to get into the NCAA tournament. He shot it down immediately. We're not even talking about the NCAA tournament. We could care less. This is all about Rutgers and the Big Ten tournament. I'm thinking, like, after today, I'm like, maybe you should have talked about the tournament, because
how much of that you think was coach speak, though?
That's what I was going to say. I don't know what's really being said behind closed doors or at practice, or if he's saying, like, look, guys, if you want to make the dance, like, you got to, I don't know. All I know is they played how his answer sounded. That's what I felt like. Like, they looked like they could care less if they won that game and had an invitation to the NCAA tournament. Like, you're right, dude. That second half was atrocious.
I mean,
embarrassing basketball.
For the vast majority of the second half, it genuinely looked like they were going to finish an entire half making one field goal, which was just mind-blowing to me. Got to give credit to Hunter Dickinson. Hunter Dickinson, I think, did as much as he could possibly do, carried the team as much as he could possibly carry him. But, we've talked about it on this show before, and I think you even wrote an article about it. Guys like Kobe Buffkin and Jet Howard being, referenced as lottery picks, is, going into the NBA draft after this season. I don't see it. And I don't want to shit on players after, one or two bad games, but those guys were MIA. And I'm not sure that Jet Howard is really fully aware that the game of basketball can be played, inside of the 3-point line. I mean, there is a lot to his game that needs to be developed. Same thing with Kobe Buffkin, man. Like, this was an opportunity for Michigan's guard play to really take it to the next level. And unfortunately, it was Hunter Dickinson in the post doing as much as he could. And as the game went on, Rutgers realized that, shit, we can collapse with 2, 3, even 4 defenders on Hunter Dickinson, because the guards don't know what to do. The Michigan guards have no idea what to do when he kicks it back out. They're confused as hell. And so, the end result was Michigan goes from looking like they have a good shot at winning the game in the first half to completely getting their ass kicked in the second half. And, for as much as I'm a fan of Juwan Howard, and I still think he is the man for the job, and I'm not putting him on the hot seat at this point, this team cannot look this way next year. And, I don't know if they are better or worse off with Jet Howard in the lineup. To me, that's a guy that he's got a lot of work to do. I mean, he's obviously tremendously talented, high upside, but was extremely disappointed with both him and Kobe Buffkin today.
Well, to continue the trend, the topic there, I'm not going to shit on players either. But I think calling a spade is just fine. You mentioned Hunter Dickinson. He goes off for 24 points. The only Wolverine in double figures, I might add. Yeah. Kobe Buffkin had almost as many turnovers as he did points today. He had 7 turnovers, 9 points. He actually had more turnovers than Jet Howard had points. He only scored 6. You get absolutely nothing from Will Cheddar and Terrace Reed and Jace Howard. I mean, they all played. They didn't play very much, but yeah, the rotation. Again, I sometimes I just don't really understand it. When guys aren't getting it done, they're still in there. When guys are providing something, they get taken out. I mean, I've seen that multiple times. I saw it more today. Doug McDaniel looked like a freshman. He scored 2 points. He did not make a shot. He made 2 free throws on the day. Had 4 fouls and 2 turnovers. I mean,
Joey Baker off the bench only got a 3. I mean, he had 2 points for the majority of the game. Got a 3. When it didn't really matter towards the end of the game. It just, there's not. Outside of Hunter Dickinson and I think Terrace Reed, obviously there's a lot to like about the way that he plays, and I think that there's some upside there. There's a lot of questions about guys on this team, and I know that they're young, and I know that there's some improvement. But again, I go back to the fact, we had talked in one of the shows either, earlier this last show that we did on Wednesday, which yesterday at this point, or the show we did before that, we were talking about whether or not Buffkin and Jet Howard were going to be back next year, and I do. I mean, if I'm an NBA team, I'm not drafting either one of those guys. If you can't show up against Rutgers in the second round of the Big Ten tournament, what are you going to do at the professional level? Both of those guys looked lost and confused and just didn't know how to navigate without Hunter Dickinson basically being the go-to guy, and everybody again just kind of freezes up, stands around. There's no movement when he's got the ball. He's got 3 and 4 guys collapsing on him, and even then he's trying to plow his way through and get a shot up at least to get to the foul line. Everybody else was just MIA. So this roster needs a lot of work. The program needs a lot of work. Obviously Juwan Howard's got to bear some responsibility for that, and I understand why people are so upset and so frustrated and so ready for football season.
Yeah, that's the tournament life on the line right there, and that's the effort that you get. You get a 12-point loss on a neutral court against a team you just beat by 13 2 weeks ago.
You had 1 field goal up until like 3 minutes left, 2.5 minutes left in the second half. You made 1 shot from the field. Dude, if you and I were out playing against Rutgers, I got to believe we could stumble our way into 2 field goals.
Get one up, dog. Get it up. You want to hear something kind of crazy, though?
Yeah.
So, in that, I think they ended up with 3 or 4 buckets in the second half, but a few of them were.
It
didn't matter.
It didn't. Kobe Buffkin got 1 at the end. Baker got 1 at the end, and then you had 2 from Dickinson. They ended up shooting, I think it's 4 of 21 in the second half.
Okay, so there you go.
Which is the fewest field goals they've made all season. Prior to that, their lowest field goal mark and a half was 7 field goals. So they waited until the second round of the Big Ten tournament to have their worst shooting performance of the second half.
Yeah, needed it. But the crazy thing about that is Michigan shot better from 3 than Rutgers.
Yep.
Was essentially even with Rutgers from the free throw line, 5 of 18 versus 6 of 18. And overall, Michigan only shot 4 percentage points lower from the floor. They were 35%, and Rutgers was 39%. And they still lost by 12 because of sloppy play and poor turnovers and giving. I mean, dude, I'm sorry. There is no way that Rutgers team should outscore that Michigan team in the paint. What is happening when that happens? By 8 points, they got outscored in the paint. When that
Sloppy couldn't get the ball into Hunter Dickinson. Even when there was a mismatch, they struggled to get the ball into the post. And it was because Rutgers felt confident enough to collapse because the Michigan guards are, 6 point. Well, maybe it was 9 for Buffkin because he got that 3 late. So maybe 9 from Buffkin, but basically 6 points the entire game, 6 points from Jet Howard. Ineffective. They're just not, they're not threats. And so when you have that situation, I'm amazed that Hunter Dickinson was able to play as well as he was. And like I said, I've been kind of hard on Dickinson because sometimes I feel like he's pretty soft for a big man. I feel like there's times when he could be way more physical and way more dominant. And I feel like he was pretty much the only one that showed up to play basketball today. And everybody else was sort of hoping that he was going to carry him or carry the team, into the third round against Purdue. But man, it's crazy how different this team can look from game to game, day to day, week to week. They just, more often than not, these guards are MIA, and that's extremely frustrating. And then you throw the sloppy play, the turnovers on top of it. And like I said, people have a right to be angry and frustrated with Juwan, but these players bear a lot of responsibility for what we saw today as well.
Yeah, no doubt.
I mean, dude, the effort, I'm sorry, but the fucking no box out on the free throw. I don't remember what his name. I can't remember the last time I've ever seen something like that. I don't know who's responsible. I know Juwan Howard was standing there. I can't remember who was on the. Nobody fucking boxes out the shooter. I mean,
you learned that in 4th grade.
Those plays, like those types of things, are exactly. It's absolutely ridiculous, and it's indicative of how the season's gone.
Yeah, I wanted to correct myself too. Those numbers I read were the 3-point numbers. Rutgers went 5 of 18. Michigan went 6 of 18. Free throws, Michigan shot a few more, but percentage-wise, they were pretty close across the board from all shooting. And even with that horrible second half, and Michigan still managed just to lose by 12 again. The turnovers, Michigan had 14 to Rutgers 9. Points off turnovers, Rutgers had 18 to Michigan's 8. And then, dude, just the points in the paint. Like I said, that's just a team wanting it more. They just looked like they wanted it more, especially in the second half.
I was pretty certain that when Michigan, when there was a point, I don't know at what point it happened early in the second half, but every time Michigan got fouled, they were going to be shooting free throws from there on out. And I think that happened with like 15, 16 minutes left in the second half. It was early in the second half. I'm thinking in my mind, okay, everything to the hole, everything physically, everything in the paint. And Michigan just didn't play that way. I mean, they squandered so many good opportunities to put Rutgers in a real difficult place. And in the second half, I mean, you look at the way the pace of that game went, who controlled it. It was Rutgers start to finish. I mean, they got out to an early lead, and I said it even after the first half. Like, Michigan will be okay as long as they don't have any more of those 2 and 3 minute droughts. Well, shit. The second half, I think they might have had an 8 or 9 minute drought. I mean, it was absolutely ridiculous. So I don't know. If you're Juwan Howard, you got to draw up better sets, and you got to obviously. You got to have players that understand how to move without the ball and how to play the game of basketball, and that it's not just, he said it during one of the timeouts. He's like, we're looking for singles. We don't need home runs. Well, say that directly to your son, Jet, who seems to want to be the big home run, big 3-point ball every time. He wants to make the big play, but there's got to be way more to his game that he develops. And I think he could certainly use another year of college basketball along with Kobe Buffkin. And look at guys like Caleb Houston and Moussa Diabate, who, again, everybody can make their own decision. And certainly, in my opinion, I'm not trying to criticize those guys, but in my opinion, both of those, Houston and Diabate, would have benefited from another year in Ann Arbor. I think Jet and Kobe Buffkin can learn a little bit from that situation, come back and get better.
To your point, Chris, Juwan Howard shot the ball 8 times. 7 of them were threes, and he did not shoot a free throw.
There you go.
I mean, dude, you're 6'8", you're athletic,
one-dimensional.
You shot fake and you go to the rack and get a couple free throws down. Instead, he just stands out there, and he's not super strong on the other end of the floor either as a defender.
And there's even times when he can get to the hole and get around the defender, and he takes a step in and then he jumps back out, to try to do a jump back fadeaway 3-point. Yeah. But again, we're 2 guys sitting in our basement doing a podcast. They're playing Division I basketball, but some things just are the way they are, and his game has got to develop. I don't see it transitioning very well to the NBA.
They do shoot a shitload of threes in the NBA.
They do, but you got to make some.
Yeah. No, I mean, that's just, oh man. I mean, here we were yesterday talking about beat Rutgers and then see what they can beat Purdue. This team, I took a
poll online. What the confidence level was, and it was like 95+% of the fans that were surveyed in that poll said, yeah, of course Michigan's going to beat Rutgers. And I mean, I could have seen a close game. I did not see an ass whooping coming like that. But that's what happens when you basically shoot, you make 1 field goal through the first 18 minutes of the second half, which is, it's insane to me that happened.
Rutgers also got 15 more shots up than Michigan did, just in general. Just, working the ball better, a little better offense, a little better.
That's what happens when you turn the ball over.
assist to turnover ratio, all that.
But I don't know. Were you in pocket when the game started? Did you make it back when the game had started? Because the first,
I saw it. Because I was coming back from the press conference, so I threw it
Yeah.
on my phone while I was driving. Really, probably not the best idea in the world, but whatever. That
I
was
mean,
only the first few minutes. I got back.
Yeah, the first 5 or 6 possessions, Michigan looked like they had a clear and concise plan of what they wanted to do, which was get Hunter Dickinson down on the block, run the offense through him. I think they jumped up to a 9-0 lead, or maybe it was 9-2, something like that, 9-0, 7-0, whatever it was. But Michigan looked like they had a plan in place. And it wasn't until, Dickinson either left the floor or Rutgers started collapsing that you could see very quickly that Michigan didn't have any other answer to how they were going to win that football game other than riding Dickinson all the way to victory. And I just think we talked about it last night on the show. We talked about the guards and some of the talent that they have on this team, some of the individual players and the talent that's there. And I can't believe that you can't get more than 6 points out of a guy like Jet Howard, and I again, 9 points for Kobe Buffkin, I believe, but really it was 6 because it was a desperation 3 at the end. It didn't matter anyway. Those guys, Doug McDaniel, I get that he's young, but you're also the starting point guard. 3 assists throughout the game. You got to be better than that. Like everybody around Hunter Dickinson failed today.
Even with the call it garbage time 3, right? You said Buffkin hit one. I don't even think I saw it. I think I came down here and started setting this up, and I missed like the last 2 minutes.
Yeah, he hit one, and Baker hit one. I mean that we're essentially irrelevant.
So you're talking even with that extra 3 that was pretty meaningless in the grand scheme of the game. Doug McDaniel, Kobe Buffkin, Jet Howard, a total of 17 points combined. That's unacceptable. It's unacceptable, man, on all levels. And, as we're just coming off of the loss, not exactly going back and watching film and breaking it down. I don't know how that happens. I don't know how those 3 guys only score 17 combined points in an essentially gotta have it or your season is over type of game.
Yeah.
Falls on the players, falls on the coaches, falls on everybody involved and everybody in that program. That's just, you just can't have that. And so now Michigan's done. They finished the season. What is it? 17-15, I think is their final record now, maybe 18. Yep. But obviously not getting anywhere near that 20 mark and no chance in hell in making the NCAA tournament. And now, like I said, it'll be, do they want to accept a bid to the NIT? Is it even worth it? And then what if they do, what do they look like in that arena when you couldn't get up to play today?
That's what is the effort even going to be there to go and try win the NIT? To me, it seems like a disaster.
32 team field, there'll be some good programs in there. Michigan, I don't know if they even deserve to go to that. I mean, that was so bad today. And now you're talking about a 3-game skid and just not being able to do anything in any crunch time moments. I mean, the whole second half was a crunch time moment today for Michigan, and they folded just like they did in overtime against Indiana and Illinois. So not the way you want to end the season.
At least in those games, they were competitive. At least in those games, they were able to force an overtime. It looked like the entire second half, Michigan didn't even come out of the locker room. It was, I don't think I've ever seen, like I said, the not boxing out on the free throw. And then as time went on, they were putting the graphics on TV and it was Michigan still only 1 field goal by Hunter Dickinson. Michigan still, I'm like, Jesus Christ, they are going to end this game with 1 field goal in the second half. And the only reason that didn't happen was out of a few desperation shots when it didn't even matter, when the game was already over. They literally could not score a basket against Rutgers.
Mm-hmm.
That's mind-blowing to me. With all the talent, with a guy like Buffkin, with a guy like Jet Howard, a guy like Hunter Dickinson, how can you not score? How do you go 5, 6, 7 minutes without scoring a field goal? It's wild.
Yeah. So my point about the NIT, and I mean, I think you do take the invite if you get it, but I see Brad Volen there. Why wouldn't the NIT be worth it? More experience, they need it. I see Grady Doan saying you definitely take that bid. It's a chance to compete. But that's kind of my point. Like, they didn't compete today. And if you're just reinforcing bad habits, that's not productive. That's not proactive for what.
Shut it down. Shut it down.
I'm not necessarily saying that, but if they decided not to go play in that, I wouldn't be like, what the hell? Why? I wouldn't react that way.
Yeah.
So, and again, like I said, it just kind of feels like a kick in the pants when yeah, CJ, that's it. It feels like they're checked out. Like if you can't compete and go balls to the wall and play better than you showed today in the Big Ten tournament with a chance to get in the big dance, I don't know what you've got. And yeah, the hashtag for competitors only probably needs to be revisited just a touch. I don't know, because
Probably. Well, you know, we Michigan football clung to those who stay will be champions for a very long time without it being true. So I think if you keep saying it long enough, eventually it'll manifest itself. But yeah, the stuff like that is when you see hashtags like that and you see, promoting statements like that, and then you watch the product on the court, and it certainly doesn't add up. That's for sure.
They are a really young team. I saw that graphic at the beginning of the game. Hunter Dickinson, the only player with points ever scored in the Big Ten tournament.
There you go.
I mean, that's pretty indicative to the youth that they're working with, and the guys haven't been there before, but it was still not a good look today. So that's it. I mean, it's not the last time we'll talk about basketball, but it's going to be pretty close, Chris. I mean, that's kind of a bow on the season for the hoops team right there.
It is. What I guess I want to revisit what we talked about yesterday, because when we first hopped on, I could see it in the comments. I could see it on social media. I can even see it here. I mean, there's a lot of people, tough loss, ugly loss in the second round of the Big Ten tournament, who do not believe Juwan Howard is the guy. They think right now is the time. Like, why wait? He's not the guy. Where do you stand on that? We talked a little bit about it. You said the seat was a little bit warm. Did today move you at all? Has it changed your mind, changed your opinion on where you were at yesterday?
Today was pretty bad, man. Today was pretty bad. And like I said, I got a little bit of flack from it. And again, I'm not in the meeting rooms. I'm not in the practices. I'm not in there when they're talking, but I'm sorry, dude. I thought that message that he delivered during the press conference was horseshit. I just thought it was. I don't think that's what you want to say publicly, even if you're saying something else behind closed doors. Why not say, like, well, we're going to fight our asses off. We want to make the NCAA tournament, and we've been talking about it. We know how important this game is. We're going to go out. We're going to try to beat Rutgers so we can boost our resume and prove to the committee that we belong in that tournament. What the hell would be wrong with saying that? Instead, he says, oh, we don't even care about that. We don't even care about it. It's just, I'm just like, dude, I'm not enough. I don't like that. And I don't care if people think that's wrong. I don't like that. And if I was a coach, I would not talk to anybody like that, knowing what I know about my team and what we need to do and the perception and all of that stuff, the energy. I mean, I just didn't like it. And then they play like they played today. And I'm like, well,
I was going to say, if the point he was trying to make was that they were all locked in on Rutgers and it was all about Rutgers, it sure as hell didn't look like it today. So yeah, if that's the message that you were rolling with, then I don't know what I don't know what they were talking about in practice. I don't know what the mindset was going into the game, but at the end of the day, like, you got to make shots. Like, effort is one thing, but you've got to be able to fucking score. Like, if you don't score in the second half, you're not going to win. And Michigan all season long has had these long droughts of 3, 4, 5, 8, 10, 11 minutes where they just can't get a bucket. And that's why the record looks the way it does. And that's why they're going to miss the NCAA tournament. And they should.
Yeah. I don't think I'm really ready to say much different than I said last night about Juwan Howard and his hot seat. But I'll tell you, I mean, I sat on the couch and watched the game with my dad. My dad's here helping out this week with the little man and just, helping watch and do some other things. But I asked him right when Michigan was down by 10 or 12 close to the end and it was clear they were going to lose. I was like, hot seat? And he said, no, not yet. But I was asking even after I said last night, no. I mean, that showing was not not an endorsement of anything positive. If you're still all in on Juwan and all you've got is positive things to say about him, that game was not an endorsement for you and your camp. It just
Correct.
wasn't. So
I mean, I think there are legitimate concerns, and I think that he has got to get that figured out. Like, you can't see a team that looks unmotivated, that looks unaware and confused as to what to do. And we'll see whether or not Hunter Dickinson chooses to come back. I hope he does, because, and we've talked about this before on the show, but I don't, is there still a place in the NBA for a guy like Hunter Dickinson? I mean, I know he's developed his 3-point range a little bit, but if he's playing in the NBA against guys like Joel Embiid and that type of individual, I'm just not sure. I'm not sure that he's ready for that. And so I hope he returns. And if he does, I think everybody needs to return. There is not an NBA player on this roster right now. I think they all need to come back. They all need to do some self-reflection in the offseason, and you can't have these mental lapses, and you've simply got to get better. And Juwan Howard's in that boat as well. He's got to get better as a head coach. He's got to get better at getting his guys up and drawing up the right types of plays and making sure that they know what to do with the ball. Or when they don't have the ball, more specifically.
Got a text from my buddy who's a diehard Michigan fan. Put a fork in Howard. He's done. I'm not ready to say that, but that's
the emotional part of it. Like that's when if you're somebody that's extremely invested in the basketball program and you're still clinging to the John Beilein years and everything that came along with that, I can understand why people are frustrated. But when you step back and you look at it and the emotions subside and you just kind of take this season in for what it was a bad season. And it happens. Like I said, John Beilein in his 7th or 8th season didn't make the tournament, didn't have a good season. And, those things happen even to good coaches. This is Juwan Howard's first go as a head coach. And, I don't think there's any question that this is his worst season as a head coach. And I think he's going to be highly motivated to change it next year. And we'll see what it looks like. And if it looks like shit next year, if this is the type of product that they have on the court next year, then I think it's time to start having a serious conversation about whether or not he's the right guy for the job.
There you have it. I like Chris's just succinct. I mean, that'll be like the title of the article. This was a bad basketball season. Like, I think you said this was not a good season. Like this, there it is.
Nobody can argue that. Not even the most optimistic Juwan Howard fans out there. Yeah. Everybody is in agreement that this was a bad year and ended on arguably. I mean, I know they played some bad games. I know the Central Michigan game happened, but this was a must-win game where you had to be highly motivated to come out and compete, and they completely shit the bed. This is one of the worst games at the worst time.
Dare I say, is this Brady Hoke on the hardwood?
Oh, don't do that. No, don't do that.
Well,
no. I mean, there are some similarities there, except Brady Hoke did not win AP Coach of the Year. Brady Hoke did not. There are some similarities.
Best year out of the gate, considerably trending downward as you go. I don't know. Brady Hoke started after Rich Rod, though. I mean,
Brady Hoke would have crawled to Michigan. He would have crawled on his hands and knees to come coach at Michigan. And
I was going to ask this last night too. How many Division I head coaches are out there?
There you go, CJ. I was going to say, yeah, CJ's right. Maybe Brady Hoke didn't slap nobody. He didn't care. He didn't care enough about the program to slap somebody.
Is Brady Hoke going to have to smack him? I'm not going to say that whole line, but that's a good one. All right. So we'll put a bow on the basketball season right there, dude. I mean, that's pretty much it. I mean,
it's a bummer, man. I was really looking forward to. I thought that Hunter Dickinson was starting to play well, and when you get into tournament time, it's almost like even if the regular season didn't go the way you want, this is a second chance. It's a fresh start. You get to make a new run, and I was hoping that Michigan was going to come in refreshed and inspired, and instead, it was more of the same, and the season is essentially over. We'll see what happens with the NIT, but it's a bummer, man, because it's a lot of fun to cover March and to be able to do that in the profession that we're in, but it's a hell of a lot more fun when the Wolverines are a part of the mix, and they're not going to be this year, and that's a bummer.
Yeah. And before we go, I mean, since we're here and there's 70, 80 people hanging out real quick, just want to talk very briefly about the press conference today. Sprinkle a little Michigan football in there, little spring practice, little player availability. Got a chance to talk to Mike Barrett, Mike Sainristil, and Roman Wilson today, and thought Mike Sainristil was outstanding. Chris, I know you've gotten to spend a decent amount of time with him and shared some conversations with. I mean, dude, I called you when the press conference was over and said, good stuff from Mike Barrett, good stuff from Roman, really good stuff from Mike Sainristil, but nothing earth shattering, really. I mean, it just, I don't know, they're 5 or 6 practices into spring ball, and there just wasn't that much to really take away from it at this point. But I could listen to Mike Sainristil answer questions about anything all day. Like, I don't know what he's going to do. If he's got an NFL future, I think he probably does. Or if he's whatever he goes into, I would be like, hire him, give him an important job, put him in charge of things and people. It was really good insight from him about Omarion Walker, about his decision to return to Michigan, along with what other people were feeling. In terms of so many guys coming back that had a chance to go to the NFL or at least look at the NFL. He talked about that. He talked about how comfortable he was playing defense this year, kind of knowing that's what he's doing right from the beginning through spring ball, through winter workouts and all that stuff. And he was just really, really good. I thought Mike Barrett had some really interesting things to say about Ernest Hausman, just talking about how good he thinks he's going to be. And then I think Roman Wilson's stuff about how they're all going to, try to replace Ronnie Bell, both as a leader and as a producer, as a person making, 30, 40, 50 catches a year and just kind of being the guy. So pretty good stuff. I don't know. I mean, if you were, get a chance to sit down one-on-one with one of those guys, is there anything like groundbreaking that you feel like you would want to find out from them, at this point, like I said, 5 or 8 practices in or whatever it is?
No, not really, because I feel like, outside of some of the questions with the offensive line, particularly at the tackle spots, what things are going to look like there, I think most people know what, have a good idea of what Michigan has. It's just now a wait and see thing where it's like, let's just get the season here and see how these guys perform. I think everybody, not just within the fan base, but even outside the fan base, expects Michigan to compete at a high level and once again be in the mix for the playoff. And so, that's, I guess, when you don't have an offseason full of controversy, or there's not a bad year, that's, it's one of the downsides. It's like, now you just got to wait for the season. The good news, we're 23 days away from the spring game. So 23 days away from being back in the big house. Hopefully the weather's going to cooperate. Maybe we'll have Rosie out on site doing a little bit of a little tailgate, but I think after today, everybody will feel good to be back in the big house and watching the winged helmets out there on the field and just getting to be around a program that really does seem to have it figured out and is in a position to make a serious run at the championship.
Got a very strong sense from all 3 young men that the culture is so healthy, and that it's incredible to say, but it's natty or bust. Like they truly feel that.
That's what it has to be, right?
Yeah, it's not
anything else is a step back.
It's not lip service. It's not like, well, we'd love to win. No, they think they should win one, and if they don't, it's a failure. Mike Sainristil, he answered it how I would love for coaches to answer stuff like this. He's like, look, we understand like that stuff doesn't matter unless we handle week 1, week 2, all the way through the first 12. But he's like, we want to win a title, and we think we're good enough to win a title. Like, he said that, and I'm like, dude, I love that. I love that answer. That's how they should feel. Back-to-back appearances in the playoffs. They got to be chasing a third. And, I mean, dude, as I was sitting up there kind of thinking of who I could ask them about, you're right. There's not even any question marks, really. It's like, what they're going to be, and, like, just get there. Just get there and start beating teams by 30 or 40 points, because that's what it's going to be right out of the gate. And
I'll tell you what, though, as eager as I am to have the football season here, man, I am going to enjoy summer as much as I possibly can, because this winter has been it's been fucking brutal. I mean, in the month of January, there were like 23 days where the sun didn't even appear. I got a little taste of it when I went down to Orlando. I'm ready to be outside with the family, walking. I'm ready to get the tan on. I'm ready to open up the pool. I need summer to get here, so I'm excited for football. I'm excited for fall, but I'm gonna enjoy summer.
There you go. You never want to fast forward. You don't want to fast forward. It goes
not at this age. Not when.
Yeah, man.
Not when you're 39, knocking on the door of 40. That's when you start to wish time would slow down a little bit. I'm in that.
That's it. Amen, brother. Well, there we have it. We will wait and see on Michigan basketball's fate when it. NIT. I mean, no one cares. I don't care.
Nobody gives a shit. Let's be real.
I mean, we'll
really watch. It's kind of like Spirit. Like we say we'll never do it, but we will. If they're in it, we'll participate.
I'll be sitting in front of that TV with a diesel and a pizza. Just, oh my god.
Fucking Little Caesars hot and ready and like a Pepsi 2 liter.
Dude, Spirit
miserable.
Airlines is the diesel and a pizza of the skies, dude. That's what it is, isn't it? That's it. That
It
should be
really
the
is.
new
It's
tagline.
it's a flying hot and ready.
Flying hot and ready. That's it. Oh, man. All right. Well, not the most enjoyable show to do on a Thursday when we thought we'd be talking about Michigan's chances in the NCAA tournament. Now we're wondering if they're playing in the NIT. So there you have it.
Well, let's keep the streak going. Shout out to Andrew Anthony. Hope you're doing well out there in Oklahoma.
Boomer sooner, baby. All right. We'll talk to you guys later. No need for a Saturday show now at this point.
No
I guess
need.
we'll see you on Wednesday.
Thanks a lot, Juwan.